The Baltimore Ravens lose in Week 18 to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it doesn't really mean much. Then I on to the playoffs. So talk about the game, but also look ahead for the Ravens, all coming up on this Instant Reaction live edition of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Allstriker of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here, making Locked On Ravens your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube and audio form wherever you get your podcast. Be sure to subscribe, follow along, audio form, video form. Tell a friend, tell a family member. We're really excited about what we're building here over on Locked On Ravens. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. It's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Again, we're a 5-day-a-week Ravens podcast, Monday through Friday, and then obviously we do have live streams after every single Ravens game, after every single piece of Ravens big news. And the Ravens, they lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers in Week 18. Again, a game that, from the standings perspective, record perspective, didn't really have any meaning for the Ravens in this one. 17-10, the final score here. Tyler Huntley gets the start. Not a lot of starters played. There were some guys who played I didn't expect to play. We'll get into all that. But again, there's not really, we can break down the game, but to me, the important thing is no one got seriously injured. John Harbaugh talked about that. But it's the playoffs, right? This game didn't mean anything from that perspective. Yes, it stinks to lose to Pittsburgh twice in a season, get swept by them. I'm not trying to downplay that. But the most important goal here was to get out of the game healthy. And I mean, Baltimore, I think, did a really good job of doing that. Some guys, again, I didn't necessarily think some guys should have stayed in as long as they did. There were some circumstances with guys getting injured during the game, so that we'll get into as well. I appreciate you being here. If you're here with me in the live chat for this game, again, this is like the sickos game, right? The Ravens, they already lock up the 1 seed, lock up the North. You're watching this game. Obviously, it's a Pittsburgh game, so I hopefully you were watching if you were a Ravens fan. We have Felix in the chat saying Huntley did his best, but I don't think he'll be back next year. It is why we cannot beat the Steelers. We have Wadislav in the chat, Trenton Simpson with an emoji there. Really, really good game from Trenton Simpson. We'll talk about him as well. What's good, Felix? I appreciate you tuning in. Jonathan saying we're still in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Hopefully the Ravens can get there. So let's start first of all with the game. Again, didn't necessarily mean anything. In fact, it meant nothing from the stats perspective. Tyler Huntley gets the start for Lamar, goes 15-28, 146 yards with a touchdown in there. Also had 8 carries for 40 yards. Wasn't a super sharp Huntley game. I thought he made some throws here and there, but I think he missed the balls to the sideline a lot, especially to Justice Hill. Missed some of those throws. Now, early in the game, drops did play a factor. Tyler did make some good throws that were dropped by receivers. I believe Laquan Treadwell had one. I think Justice Hill dropped a beautiful ball from Tyler Huntley up the sideline. So I'm not saying that Tyler played a terrible game, but this is the drop-off that you see from a Lamar Jackson-led offense to a Tyler Huntley-led offense. And we'll give Tyler a little benefit of the doubt here. Lamar's been working with Zay Flowers all year and with Odell all year, but to be fair to Lamar, he has been working with those guys over the course of his career. There was some serious discourse over the course of the last couple of seasons about how, it's crazy. Tyler Huntley, the Ravens can win with him just as much as they can win with Lamar. It's no disrespect to Tyler Huntley, but Lamar Jackson elevates. I mean, we saw the Ravens offense in 8 of their last 10 games had scored 30-plus points. The Ravens can only put up 10 in this game against the Pittsburgh defense that I think was down to their 5th and 6th or 7th and 8th string safeties. So credit to Tyler Huntley, made some good throws, but also was not the best game I've ever seen again as well. I see Joe Cool saying Steeler fans are clowning the Ravens for losing twice. Who cares? They're going to be in tears when Buffalo wins tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, look, you signed me up for a Pittsburgh team again in the playoffs. I'd much rather face that Pittsburgh team. Seems like TJ Watt is probably done for the season here with this MCL injury. He'll probably be able to come back for the start of the regular season next year, but for the playoffs, I would not. It's apparently a grade 3 MCL sprain from what I've been seeing on Twitter. Maybe there's a different diagnosis. I'll again peruse through Twitter as we kind of go on here on Locked On Ravens. But yeah, I really think that Baltimore, if they were to have the opportunity to play this Pittsburgh team again, I'd take it. I'd take a defense with hopefully Kyle Hamilton and Roquan and all those guys in against Mason Rudolph. The Ravens held George Pickens in check. I thought Brandon Stevens did a solid job. Rock Ya-Sin was okay, gave up a couple of plays. Geno Stone gets hurt as well. But as Blarmark says, they're leaving relatively healthy was the real win. 100%. You take a loss in this situation if you can get out of the game healthy, right? That's 100% what I would trade off. I would trade off a loss to Pittsburgh here for health. You don't want to risk Lamar. Look, if Lamar plays, if Zay plays, Odell, all those guys, Roquan, Kyle Hamilton, etc., the Ravens win this and it's not relatively close, right? Like you don't question if you're a Ravens fan, Steelers fan, NFL fan, what the outcome would have been of this game if those guys play. But you don't play them to preserve them because personally I'm risking the rust. And I think John Harbaugh said after the game just recently that the Ravens are going to be practicing on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which is more of a schedule than they had during their bye week last time around. So I think the Ravens, it's a good thing that they're going to be able to do that. And John Harbaugh said it's a chance to right the wrongs, chance to right the ship here and change those narratives. So for me, this is the number one seed in the AFC. That did not change with this loss. The AFC North champions, that did not change with this loss. So, yeah, I don't really see. I see Joe Cool. They're saying Lamar's 0 for 2 with the Steelers. Dude, we literally played a B team or our B team, and they're still criticizing Lamar, calling him trash. I mean, again, those who understand this, again, Ravens fans know Lamar. A funny stat, and again, it's only funny. It doesn't have any implication on anything. But Lamar has never played 2 games against the Steelers in the same season. He's been in the league 6 years, has not happened once, or at least started 2 games against the Steelers in the same season. So, but again, that doesn't matter, right? Like this game does not matter in the grand scheme of things. Just going through it quickly again, I'm just going to kind of get through it all in the first part of the show, and then as it comes up in the chat again. Gus Edwards, 10 for 48. He had a fumble. Melvin Gordon, 7 for 18. He had a fumble on the ground. Dalvin Cook, I mean, you are the new running back one of them. No, I'm just kidding. But I would put Dalvin Cook on the roster over Melvin Gordon personally. Melvin Gordon, the stat popped up on the broadcast, and I've actually said it here on this show multiple times. I found this stat out, was that Melvin Gordon has the most fumbles since he entered the league, more than any non-quarterback in the league. That stat belongs to Melvin Gordon. So personally, I'm not trusting that in a playoff setting. Dalvin Cook also has had his fair share of fumbling issues, but I trust Dalvin more than Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon is, a better player. And I see B. James, I'm still pissed off about getting swept by the Steelers. I get it. It's not fun. I'm 100% with you. And I think that early in the game, you can kind of tell that, okay, guys are trying not that they weren't playing with any effort whatsoever, but you could tell, Patrick Queen was maybe making a business decision here. Marcus Williams, a business decision there. Not that those guys weren't playing hard, but obviously the number one goal was to get out 100% healthy or as healthy as he could. But losing to the Steelers isn't fun. It's not a fun. You can just sit here and say, oh, well, okay, move on. People have the right to be upset they lost to the Steelers. B. James, I 100% agree with you. It sucks. It's terrible. But the Ravens, again, they didn't have their A team out there. So, of course, there was going to be that drop-off. Nelson Aguilar led the team in both receptions and yards, 5 for 39 for him. Isaiah Likely had a beast, a grown man touchdown. He had 2 for 31. Justice Hill, 3 for 26. Charlie Kohler, 3 for 23. Laquan Treadwell, 1 for 16. And Tylan Wallace, 1 for 11. Very big fumble day. The Steelers had 6 fumbles on the day. Mason Rudolph had 3 of them. Jaylen Warren had 2. Calvin Austin had 1. The Ravens had 2 of them, Gus Edwards and Melvin Gordon. 8 total fumbles on the day for both teams combined. That's crazy. It's a little ridiculous. Delshon Phillips, 13 total tackles in this one for him. Marcus Williams had 9. Patrick Queen, 8. Trenton Simpson balled out. We'll talk about him a little more in the second part of the show. But Trenton Simpson had an incredible game. Patrick Queen hyped him up after the game. He was flying around, looked really fast, was super physical, made multiple big-time plays. I was really impressed. If there was a player of the game for the Ravens, I'm giving it to Trenton Simpson because he played one heck of a game, and major credit to him. Guys, this is the time for them to take advantage of those opportunities. And, no Roquan, Patrick Queen goes in. Queen actually had to come back in the game, because Delshon Phillips got hurt and Malik Harrison was already out injured. So they had no other linebackers. So Patrick Queen had to come back in, and he clearly is not 100%. He was getting up slow later in the game. I was getting a little nervous, if we're being honest, about Patrick Queen. But luckily, nothing too crazy for him. The big injuries, and we'll talk about this a little more in the final part of the show, but I guess none of them were big. But Geno Stone and Delshon Phillips, again, I mentioned Phillips. Both those guys were down on the same play. Stone was in the medical tent. Phillips was just on the sideline. Brent Urban being evaluated for a concussion. And then Justice Hill, I saw something late in the game with him. He stayed in the game, so I don't think it's anything major, but he ended up having maybe an arm stinger or something like that. So again, nothing too crazy injury-wise, which was the number one goal for this team. We still have lots to get to here on Locked On Ravens, though. Don't go anywhere. Coming up, we'll be talking a bit more about the playoffs, right? This game, it happened, but we'll move on to the playoffs a little bit, talk about some scenarios, some potential matchups for the Ravens as well. Stay tuned for that. We have a ton to get to here on this episode of Locked On Ravens. First, this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. And at the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move that I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And I've had a ton of great experiences over on LinkedIn. I've found jobs, made connections, networked over there. LinkedIn is awesome. And LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which make it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's really important to achieve goals, right? New year can achieve some goals in 2024. The right team member might be able to help do that. That's why LinkedIn Jobs and small businesses have a partnership. It is why small businesses are LinkedIn Jobs number one, delivering quality hires for something competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. That, thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL, LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We're back. Our second segment of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Allstreicher still here with you. Ravens lose to the Steelers. It snaps a long winning streak. They had last lost was to the Browns, seems like forever ago. But you know what? I look at it as if the Ravens had to lose, I'd rather have it happen here as opposed to the playoffs, right? That's my silver lining on the whole thing. Really exciting time, though. Ravens number one seed in the AFC. So this week 18 loss to the Steelers means nothing. AFC North champions. Ravens signed Dalvin Cook, too. We'll get into a little more of that as well as Baltimore kind of shapes their playoff roster. The final piece, it almost feels like Dalvin Cook is. If you want more in-depth analysis on that, we did a live stream right after on Thursday. Then we also did a Friday episode on Dalvin as well. Programming note quickly here, we'll have a bonus episode coming out tomorrow, 6 a.m. on Locked On Ravens, talking about 2019 and 2023. That was supposed to be yesterday's episode for Friday, but Kaji Ismail and I recorded it before the Dalvin news. Obviously, you got to lean into the Dalvin news. So really exciting again for the Ravens here. Wadislav saying Trenton Simpson, picking up from last segment, has a lot of massive potential. I 100% agree. And B. James asking, I want to know, do you think we should cut or trade Huntley after this year? He hasn't gotten better in 6 years. Well, Huntley, was he 2021 or 2020? I think it was 2021, or maybe 2020. He's only been in the league for a few years now. But to your point, B. James, he's a free agent after the season. I don't think they bring him back personally. I think that was kind of set in stone when the Ravens signed Malik Cunningham from the Patriots practice squad. I think Huntley deserves a chance to go compete somewhere for a starting job. Now, I think he's a he's a high to mid-tier backup and maybe a low-level starter, right? He still has room to grow, but I just don't think his future is in Baltimore. The deep ball hasn't gotten any better since he's been in the league. There are still some decision-making issues with him. And look, maybe with reps and with time, it gets better, but he's not getting those reps in that time in Baltimore as long as Lamar Jackson's the starter, right? Like, Tyler Huntley is not going to get the opportunity to start as long as Lamar Jackson is the quarterback. And you don't, with Malik Cunningham, Huntley, whoever this backup is, you don't want that guy on the field because you want Lamar on the field, right? That's the guy you want. It's an injury insurance guy. And for me, I think that Cunningham kind of fits what the Ravens want to do, and I would give him a chance. I see Joe Cool saying, let's give Malik Cunningham a chance, right? And I see Wadislav saying this is probably it for Huntley and the Ravens. Iram saying Huntley should be let go. I do think that this is probably the last year for Tyler Huntley with the Ravens. They have a lot of other things they have to attend to it. And quick note here, the Ravens did sign Michael Pierce to an extension today. That broke. It was kind of unexpected, but it's a 2-year, $7.5 million contract which is incredible value. I believe some of the contract tracking websites had Michael Pierce's valuation and his value at $8 million alone for what his play has been this season. Ravens get him for 7.5 over 2 seasons. I don't know how that contract is structured yet. I don't think they've put out the specifics, but that's a steal for Michael Pierce. He's been a very underrated player for them. He's one of the best nose tackles in the league, in my opinion. And he is a guy that just clogs up the middle. So really, really good move for Baltimore ahead of the playoffs. They're still making moves ahead of the playoffs, which is awesome here. And I see Nico saying, I feel Simpson shows he's the future next Roquan. Roquan's a high bar, but hey, you know what? If Patrick Queen does leave in the offseason, which I think looks more and more likely, unfortunately, I'd love it to happen, but can you really justify paying 2 inside linebackers $80+ million contracts, which I believe Patrick Queen's going to get here? I think that the most realistic path for Baltimore offseason wise is probably them tagging Justin Madubuike or signing him to an extension. They let Patrick Queen go, and those are their 2 big decisions. But then they have to do Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy, who combined for 18.5 sacks for the Ravens this season. Clowney with 9.5 and Van Noy with 9. 18.5 sacks this season. And for Baltimore, I mean, those guys, 3.805, I believe, I put it out on Twitter. I'll check it quickly. Yeah, 3.805 was their combined cap hit this season. Just unbelievable work from Eric DeCosta. I thought I did the math wrong for a second. Eric DeCosta just absolutely killed those 2 signings 100%. Let's see. Jonathan saying Lamar Jackson will help lead us to a Super Bowl win. Hey, you know what? If he deserves it and he is locked in right now, I think so as well. Or at least, it feels more and more like their season. Nothing is given, right? But we'll see. Joe Cool, our focus is now on the playoffs. Get the job done. This is not 2019. We learned from that painful loss. Ronnie Stanley talked about it. He's been playing well. We're a different team this season. That 2019 team was young, and you'll hear more about it on tomorrow's bonus episode with Kadri Ismail. But that 2019 team was young. It was Lamar Jackson's first season as a starter, full-time season as a starter. And I think that they've learned from that. They remember that. And I agree. I think it's going to go differently than 2019. And I just don't know what team stops them when everybody's healthy. Got to earn it, not jinxing anything. But again, we'll see what kind of happens here. Joe Cool saying, let's give Malik a chance. Eric McDay saying Steelers 5-1 in the division. I didn't know that. Thank you for bringing that up, Eric. I did not know Steelers were 5-1 in the division this year. That is, hey, credit to them. But again, Ravens dropped 7 passes in that game. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. They should have caught those passes. They didn't do it. Steelers took advantage. And in this game, obviously, it was the backups as well. B. James saying Pierce didn't clog up the middle today. Yeah, he was going in and out of the game a little bit. I think his momentum was kind of off. I mean, he had a couple of nice plays, but I think consistently over the season, Pierce has been really good. Joe Cool saying they should bring back Justin Houston for the vibes. I mean, you can put him on the practice squad, but no, there's not really room for him. Yeah, Van Noy and Clowney playing really well. Always been playing well. They have guys who they can move inside and out. So again, vibes guy, sure, but they're not going to probably make that move. It would be cool for the storyline, but from a football perspective, I don't really see him hitting the field at all. Jonathan saying can't wait until Dalvin Cook comes to our team. Yeah, he's going to be a good player for them, I think. Now, what's his role? We don't know. Personally, I would trust him over Melvin Gordon. I think that your running back rotation in the playoffs should be Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and Dalvin Cook. Those should be your 3 guys. But Gus Edwards had a fumble. I think this was his 2nd straight game with a fumble. That doesn't concern me as much as Melvin Gordon's fumbles. Melvin Gordon and his fumbles concern me a lot more. But Dalvin is a player that can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can pass protect. I think him being on the Jets, that Jets offensive line was putrid the entire year. They were not good. So I do think that Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, those 2 guys, they've been with you the entire season. Those are kind of the 2 you rely on. But then having Dalvin Cook in a role, I think that does help you. Joe saying the Ravens have to cut Marcus Williams. He's been out of shape. He probably needs someone else. Cut Melvin Gordon. They're not cutting anybody here, unfortunately, from the roster, in my opinion. Marcus, it's been a weird year for Marcus, I think. I don't think he's 100% healthy. In fact, I don't think he's nearly close. I think he's been playing with one arm for most of the season, had the dropped interception, and was the guy on the Deontay Johnson touchdown that kind of got lost in coverage. It's been a weird year for him. I think that Geno Stone has played well. Kyle Hamilton's played well. Marcus Williams has been up and down. He's not a bad player. I think he's still good. but I just think that he's trying to do what he can with what he has, and that right now is he's not as healthy as I think that he should be. The way that the Ravens handled the injury situation, again, we're not really going to know, but he wants to be out there. He wants to be playing, and we'll kind of see what the next move for the Ravens is there. But he's on a 5-year, $70 million contract. It's a big contract. I don't think they can even really get out of it until next season at the earliest. I don't have his contract numbers up right now, but I don't necessarily think that they're going to move on from him here. He's a big part of what they do, and I just hope that he's healthy next season, because he hasn't really been healthy during his entire Ravens tenure, which has been pretty unfortunate for him. Coming up, though, we'll be rounding out this live instant reaction episode talking about the Ravens and the playoffs, more injury notes, and I see a question in the chat about Patrick Queen. We'll get to that all coming up on our final segment of this instant reaction live edition of Locked On Ravens. First, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp, and for the new year, sometimes there are some things you want to keep the same about yourself, or maybe some things you want to change up. For me, I think I definitely want a better sleep schedule. Sleep has been few and far in between for me, so hoping to change that up. But there are other areas where I'm already crushing it. I'm sure you're already crushing it as well. And around New Year's, we get obsessed sometimes with how to change ourselves instead of just expanding on what we're already doing, right? Maybe you finally organize one part of your space, you want to tackle another. Maybe you're taking your supplements every morning. Now you want to actually eat breakfast too. Therapy helps you find a strength so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. In therapy, there are so many benefits to it, such as learning positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, going to empower you to become the best version of yourself. And it isn't just for those who experience major trauma, it's for everyone. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. We're back rounding out Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher talking with you on this Saturday. Feels like Sunday, but the Ravens, again, they play on Saturday to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lose by the final score of 17-10. Just a rainy and ugly game. They end the year with a thud, but does not matter because they are the number one seed. And they're the AFC North champions. None of that changed with this game here. Be sure to subscribe to our channel here on YouTube on Locked On Ravens. Also follow along anywhere you get your audio form podcast. Really excited to continue building what we've done here on Locked On Ravens. Been doing this since August of 2019. Seems like forever ago, mainly because it was. So you can find our show anywhere you get your podcast, audio, video, however you want to listen, however you want to watch. We do 5 days a week of Ravens content plus bonus content like tomorrow's episode. First ever time we're doing a bonus Sunday episode. Backstory to that is, again, Kaji Ismail and I recorded earlier before the Ravens signed Dalvin Cook, and obviously when that happened, that episode became irrelevant, but it still is kind of relevant. So we're going to put that up for Sunday, so that'll be available here on YouTube and, of course, here wherever you get your audio podcast. Let's continue this conversation, though, about Patrick Queen. Nico saying, what do you think about Patrick Queen's future? Queen is awesome. I said at the time that the Ravens shouldn't have declined that fifth-year option. I thought that they should have just kind of let it play out. But the Ravens and with Patrick Queen, this was the breakout year for him, and that's kind of what I was projecting. He hadn't really started a ton in college, didn't really have a ton of experience, bumpy couple of years. He was drafted during the COVID year, so didn't really have a full offseason of work, right? So you're seeing these guys break out from that draft class this season. Queen and Justin Madubuike and all these guys, right? Geno Stone. These guys are breaking out, I think, because you just need to have some time with them. So I think it was a mistake by Baltimore to decline that option. I said that at the time. I just don't think his future's in Baltimore, and that's not because I don't want it to be. I would love if Patrick Queen came back, but he deserves every penny of whatever contract he's going to get. But if you're the Ravens, can you justify, let's just say Patrick Queen gets a total of $80 million, right? Can you justify paying $180 million total dollars to two linebackers? I think that there are just other areas Baltimore has to figure out. Justin Madubuike, they're going to have to figure out that situation. You cannot let him walk out of the building with how good he's been. It's very hard to find interior pass rush, and I think we saw some flashes in Trenton Simpson. Again, I'm not dubbing him the PQ replacement or anything right now. He's going to have to earn that, but I think that the Ravens have a better shot at finding a Patrick Queen replacement as opposed to a Justin Madubuike replacement. I think you have to pick one or the other there. It'd be awesome. It'd be a masterclass by Eric DaCosta if he could get both under contract, but there are other areas. Again, what are you going to do about Kava and Jadavian Clowney, Odell Beckham Jr., Gus Edwards? They figured out the Michael Pierce problem, but Kevin Zeitler's a free agent. They're going to have to start putting aside other money. And depending on how those deals are structured, I mean, what's the future of Ronnie Stanley, et cetera, as well. So we'll see. Jonathan saying, is Melvin Gordon going to be fired? Well, he might get cut and then put back on the practice squad. They might do a flip with Gordon and Dalvin Cook, but I wouldn't expect him to just be, cast off from the team altogether there. Joe Cool saying, my concerns with Marcus Williams at the last week's game against the Dolphins, he was getting cooked against Tyreek Hill. I think the Ravens will part with J.K. Dobbins next year. I miss Tyus Bowser. Hope he can come back for the playoffs. What's going on with him? I wish I could tell you, Joe. I have no idea what's going on with Tyus Bowser. He's a big part of their team, but the knee, I just guess, hasn't responded. That's what I'll say there. Marcus Williams, I get it. It's been a weird year, and I'll kind of say that again, where I want to see him next season hopefully fully healthy before I make an 100% just, Williams is terrible, get rid of him, move on. Again, I'll try to pull up the numbers if I can here quickly without disrupting everything too much, but I think you can't even get out of the Marcus Williams contract until 2025, like next season. I'm going to try, but Williams is someone who I think gives the Ravens a nice player that is that rangy free safety. And he showed the flashes and he showed the potential last season. And he obviously has had his moments this year too. So yeah, the potential out, I pulled it up, is 2025. So next offseason, you can cut him with $15 million dead cap hit, and you would only save $3 million on this. So that really isn't worth it. But then you can get out in 2026, he would have a $9 million dead cap hit compared to a $20 million actual cap hit. So that's saving around $11 million. So it's not even worth it to get out of Marcus Williams' contract until 2026 to me at the earliest. And I just think that for Williams, he is too valuable to even think about that right now as well. So that's where I am. We have a Steelers fan in here, Raheem. I appreciate you tuning in. It was a solid win for you guys. Now you got to hope and pray for some help. So we'll see if the Ravens and Steelers see each other again. I see Joe in the chat. What's going on, Joe? He says, who do you think the Ravens want to play if they had a choice? If they had a choice, this is a hot take. Put me down for a hot take. I'm going to say the Chiefs. I'm going to say the Ravens want to play the Chiefs. Now, personally, I think the Dolphins also would be a decently easy win for them. Dolphins are a really talented team. They're so injured, though. They're so injured. But if they had a choice, I would say play that Steelers team again. Sign me up to play that Steelers team again, right? Because I just think with Lamar and all those guys in there, I just think with TJ Watt done too, I just think that Baltimore has what it takes to just boat race the Steelers out of M&T Bank Stadium. So I don't know. Mason Rudolph, I would rather see Mason Rudolph than Tua or Josh Allen or Mahomes or any of those guys, right? And even though the Steelers offense has looked better with Rudolph and looked better after Matt Canada, I think that, to me, put the Steelers in the playoffs, let them upset somebody, let them come to M&T Bank Stadium. That, to me, I think is a path to the AFC Championship game as well. B. James, I said, Queen, thank you for your service, especially if he's asking for crazy money. Yeah, again, paying two linebackers is just in today's NFL, I think that some teams can do it, but I think it'd be a different conversation if Baltimore had less to worry about in the offseason. You could really only focus on maybe Queen and a couple other guys. You got to worry about 10-plus guys now, so we'll see what happens. But if I had to predict, I think Madubuike stays and Queen goes, and that's it's stinks because I would love Queen back. I think he's an awesome player, a really awesome person too. So unfortunate there. I see Junior Joe in the chat. He says, "Who do you think will play?" I think that if I had to guess, because the Ravens will play the lowest seed in the playoffs, is how it works. The Ravens being the 1 seed will play the lowest remaining seed in the playoffs, so they can't meet the 2 seeds of the championship. I think Buffalo beats Miami. I just think Miami's too injured, and Javon Holland might not even play in that one. I think what we're going to see is a Miami upset at Arrowhead, and we're going to see the Dolphins come to M&T Bank Stadium again and play the Ravens in the divisional round. That's what I think will happen, because it would be 3-6 in that scenario, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Chiefs are falling apart right now. Defense has been a lot better for them, but their offense is slowed down. They have no receivers. Kelsey looks slow. Mahomes is still Mahomes, and Pacheco is really good, but I think that Miami has the firepower. If they can get Waddle back and Holland and a couple other players back, I think they can definitely upset the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Then they'd be coming to M&T Bank to play there. Joe Cool, J.K. Dobbins' problem is injuries. Can't have that next season. So he's going to get traded to a different team. Well, he's a free agent after the season, Joe. I hear you, but maybe a 1-year prove-it deal, minimum type, $4 million with incentives, $5 million with incentives. I'd be fine with bringing J.K. back there. I'd be fine with bringing him back on that deal. He's a really good player, but he's not going to get what he was asking for, what he wanted in free agency, and that's just the unfortunate news of it. Wadislav saying, never the Chiefs. With that coach, QB, tight end, they'll always have a chance. Dolphins will be fun. I agree. I mean, I think, again, my absolute number one choice, if I had to pick, hey, this team is coming and this team is playing the Ravens, it would definitely be the Steelers. I think the Jaguars also. I'm not as high on the Jaguars as everybody else. Christian Kirk was a huge loss for them. I think that they would beat down on the Jaguars as well. So that to me is what I would want to see. Wadislav saying Browns are the biggest threat, in my opinion, not the team you want to face, because Joe Cool, I think, said, I want to see Joe Flacco back to Baltimore. Man, it's not even about Joe for me with the Browns. It's about the defense. It's about Myles Garrett, Darius Smith, all those guys. I think the Ravens would turn over Joe, because as awesome as Joe's playing this year, and with the Browns here, this comeback player of the year thing, I mean, I think that Joe will get turned over by the Baltimore defense. I think the Browns defense is the only defense in the AFC that has at least a shot at stopping the Ravens offense on Lamar right now as well. Let's see. We have Joe saying Hill revenge game. Fins up. Fins up, Joe. Come on now. What are you talking about there? Waddle was a big loss for them. They had a couple other big guys too, but again, 56-19. That's not like, oh, the Dolphins having Jalen Waddle would make up 40 points, or having Robert Hunt will make up 40 points. So the Dolphins are really injured. They were actually my dark horse Super Bowl pick this year, and they just got too beat up for me at this point anymore. Jonathan saying, did you see the video of Tyreek Hill's house on fire? Yeah, super unfortunate. Just awful. I feel for him. Prayers to Tyreek Hill and his family. You never want to see that. An awful situation there for Tyreek. Wadislav saying, Jags are not good. I agree with you there. Nico saying, JK showed flashes in week 1. The injuries. So unfortunate. Yeah, injuries for JK really, really, really unfortunate as well. Wadislav, I think that we will beat the Browns, but AFC North clashes are so painful. There will be injuries. Yeah, those are physical games. You saw that today. And then Joe's talking about Kansas City. Oh, I see. Yes, I see what you're saying, Joe. My mistake. I misread the comment. So yeah, I think that if Hill gets that revenge game, bring the Dolphins, T. Still, I think that will help the Ravens. And again, what team's stopping them? I don't think anybody on the Ravens has anything to be scared about, but you can't go into that with that mentality. You have to think, hey, this is 1 week at a time. Can't overlook anybody. Doesn't matter what the Ravens did. They're 13-4 team in the regular season, best team in the league in the regular season. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you don't win in the playoffs. So Wadislav will round it out with this one, and we're here for a Super Bowl. He says superb owl with the owl emoji. I like that, Wadislav. But I appreciate everybody tuning in today for Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much. Again, live streams are awesome. It's really fun to engage in the chat and talk with everybody. You can tune in. If you're watching now after the fact, you can tune in live to notifications on YouTube, but they will be available after the fact in both video form and audio form. We will have our bonus episode out tomorrow, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. Kadri Ismail and I will talk about the differences and similarities between the 2019 team and 2023 team. So be sure to stay tuned, subscribe, follow along, audio form, video form. Really appreciate the support. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.